Good morning once again to all of you. I think we've got a good perspective to what's going to happen today. Thanks to Biju and thanks to uh, straight from the heart from Mr. Ramesh, because it kind of opens up the entire sphere for all of us. Uh, the the day is well begun because of the fact that now we've got our thinking hats up. I do hope that each one of you can cling on to the words that will come in. We're going to make this a much shorter session, I think, in order to capture time. Uh, at the same time, there's a whole lot that's going to happen. So each person may not be able to talk for long, but my expectation is that as they tell us, there are some things that's going to come out of each one of these people which we can hang on to and try and see if that's going to help us in our own businesses. That is, after all, the expectation. The topic of survive, sustain, and success is about the fact that all of us, when we start at the start of the pandemic, were wondering, are we going to survive at all? And if you go back, even if you go back to March of or April of 2000, I was talking about, and I'm sure it's got recorded in various places, including on TV. I was thinking that more than 30% of retail will get wiped out in this country. We had predicted that 5 million people will lose their jobs in retail out of the 46 million people. And very clearly, the 5 million people did lose their jobs when we talked about it. 30% of retailers, I don't think that number has come to that. I'm still trying to get and gauge the number of retailers who kind of shut down or buckled down. But I don't think it came to that level. The beautiful thing has been that when we now checked up during back of the envelope check in the month of Diwali, just before Diwali, we found out that out of the 5 million people, almost 3 million jobs have come back into retail. It's only 2 million jobs that's still not back. Some of them are not back because the business has got completely changed in their avatar. Some of them are not back because some of them went to their native places and possibly found something else, and they did not want to come back into their businesses at all. So from a people perspective also, it's been quite challenging. Some of the challenges that's been brought forward are real life, and I think it's something to be pondered. At the same time, when I speak to people, I'm seeing a new sense of rejuvenation. Some people have got rejuvenated, they've rechanged their businesses, they're doing business with a new sense of optimism. But most importantly, many of them are thankful because they survived through this. This is the overall thought process. I don't know to what extent I am right in stating what I stated. And in order to understand this in better perspective and to go into the depths, I think we've got this whole panel here. But also to know what's lying ahead for us. How are we looking at the future? What do we want to learn? What do we want to do? What are the new things that's going to happen? If between the five of them, they are able to give us even one pointer, I think each one of us sitting in this room would have learned something new. And as a student of retail or as a practitioner of retail or as an observer, as an analyst, as an investor, whichever way you want to put an avatar, I think there is some things that's going to come out of this panel. That's my expectation from this panel. So thank you for joining me. We'd start off with Subhash. The beauty of what's happened is that I think most of us have been in touch much more with each other in the last 18 months, much more regularly. And like what Biju was telling, many people were able to connect with each other digitally, but as an association and retailers, I think it's wonderful. Relationships have got also redefined. And in order to understand how the business has been, what do you think has happened to customers? The first part, I want to get one word from each one of you about what's happened to customers. Even if you can give me 2 or 3 things, not too long, but tell me what's happened to your customers. I think that would be a nice start. And do you think that will sustain or survive or
Yeah.
thrive?
Yes, Kumar, we have been talking a lot in the last 18 months, ever since the first lockdown. And you did mention that there's going to be a halla gulla, lot of landlords going to courts, etc. We touched on that part also. But fortunately, the first lockdown, which was a complete lockdown, post the lockdown, in fact, the mobile phone business that I am in fact, it was booming. We ran out of stocks. We were talking about it. We ran out of all aging inventory, which we were not selling earlier. We ran out of all demo phones. Literally, the shelves were empty. because of online education, because of work from home, and phones having got crashed in those previous 45 days of lockdown, etc. But that's past. Come to the latest lockdown, and again, this time we are challenged with a new problem of chipset shortage, etc. But one thing that we have not been able to find an answer is when the rest of the market was complaining that things are bad, telecom was doing well, mobile retail was doing well. When the media and everybody started writing, be it last year or this year, the things have really bounced back. Somehow, mobile is not bounced back that much, or mobile has actually taken a little downward shift. It could also be because of one shortage, two because of the online Diwali and the pro online supplies going more to online and all that. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Subhash. Sunil, you've also gone through various things, and what do you see is happening with your customers?
See, as far as our industry is concerned, I don't think much changes has happened because customer is still purchasing. Whether they buy it from the nearest store or from the online, but still the transactions are happening. So it's question of how we need to adapt to the changes. I think that's the only way you can today survive. Basically, to my understanding is start adapting to the changes because this disruptive changes is going to be there in the next 10, 15 years. It's not going to stop anyhow. So let's be proactive. Let's start adapting to the changes and still you can sustain the market. In fact, I would say this current Diwali, we have done, in fact, 30 or 33% of better business than last year's Diwali. So in fact, Diwali has been fantastic for us.
Uh, I do have to say that over the last 14 months, when we do this business survey from our members, the two segments that's always stood out and done decently was the old CDIT products, the consumer durables and information technology products, because of what Subhash said in terms of the home itself becoming the mecca for their school. It's become the school, it's become the office, it's become the training ground, it's also become new kinds of businesses. So I think that's something that's sustained all through. Similarly, food, I think somehow it was made sure that people were able to get their food. We got a lot of help from the government to ensure that food reached to the last set of people in the country. I do have to say that we may all want to have our own opinions about the government. The government took so much of proactive steps to ensure that citizens got their food during the lockdown. It is amazing. The number of people who got in touch with RAI and us all through this, through the pandemic, from individual states as well as from the center. And people at various levels in the government got onto WhatsApp groups with us to make sure that food was made available. So thanks to that, my belief is that our country was able to face the food problem much better than many of the advanced countries also. There was a run to the supermarket in most parts of the Western world. Whereas in our country, there was still the nearby dukandars who really helped in making sure food was available. And this is something that we've seen, and it's got reiterated.
Employees were shared.
Uh,
Rai did a marvelous job on that front.
Yeah, I mean, we also had retailers who said, I've got extra people with me. And there were retailers who said, we need people during this pandemic. And there's a whole lot of exchange that happened between people who wanted people and the people who had excess people. We also maintained a whole lot of people to come in, thanks to the fact that members came in together. It's an amazing method to say, how do you survive and really take things forward? This is something that happened. I now go on to Sohel because that business has been different. And where does he see Sohel and Charat? I think I've got a different experience that they've gone through over the last few months. So Sohel, do you want to take that up?
So, in one word, the customer is back, Kumar, and we should all celebrate it. I think the customer is back in all our stores, and business is back. To what extent we've been able to capture that consumption, I think it's our individual strategies, but I think it's safe to say, and I'll say inshallah and mashallah, that the consumer is back in the stores and we can look forward. So I think I'm looking forward to the business and with optimism, right? I'm optimistic about the future. I think COVID was a blip. COVID was a blessing for some, COVID was a curse for some, but I think the customer's back. and we're very optimistic, Kumar, that the business is going to be brighter. And business is going to be brighter because we've learned some great lessons ourselves on how to run our businesses better, right? So I think that's a great takeaway for us from COVID has been efficiency, reduce the wastage, clarity in thought, okay? A lot of those lessons, we can expand on that, but the customer is back and business is back business is back as usual.
Charat, do you want to take that up further?
No, I think exactly echo Suhail's thought. Clearly, one thing is visible that what you asked, what's happening to the customer? What is happening to the customer is definitely clear on what he wants from stores. And there's a certain customer who is digital, we have spoken about it. They're also clear what they want out of those channels. But in a nutshell, consumption is back. Consumption is back, customers are buying. Customers have identified multiple occasions, requirements and needs, and they're back to buying for those occasions. The other thing which I would say from a customer point of view is there is a tightening. They're clear about which brands they want to buy, why they want to go to a store, and what do they want from that store. And that is what is the new change that we have to adapt to in the post-pandemic world. I want to make one small change, and I think should be our motto. It's no longer survive, sustain, and succeed. It is thrive. The survival is over. Okay? If you're all here today, it's already survived. From here onwards, we should only be thinking how to thrive. Right? And everything that we talk today and through the next few hours is about how to thrive from here. Because I genuinely believe that we are on the cusp of a massive consumption, re-energized consumption wave going to starting January 2022. And therefore, our thinking today is no longer hunker down, and our thinking as retailers, as brands, in whichever industry or category we might be, should be about how do we rebuild from here. And I can say with confidence that how much ever we read what is happening in the capital markets, don't think that if you don't have .com in your business, you are not a successful business. There is a massive opportunity for all kinds of retail.
Thank you. I think that's quite nice. I do have to tell all of you that some of the things that Arya has done, many of you have contributed. And that's also been contribution that's happened because of the fact that many of you thought not just about your business. You thought about the industry. You thought about people living all across the country. And Charat was also one of those. I think he helped in doing some things in Ahmedabad. Sitting here, he was helping me doing things in Ahmedabad. He was doing things for us in various forms. Similarly, Sohail, Subhash. So all the members sitting here, and I'm sure quite a lot of people here, have all helped in getting this course happening for all of us. So it's not just sustenance for ourselves. Many of them went beyond their normal businesses to make sure that sustenance happened for the entire industry. So I'd like to thank that and bring that up onto the table to everybody. Sushanto, you'd want to say, because footwear as a business has gone through, again, a whole lot of ups and downs. It's gone through various things. I'm also seeing people like you who are showing that optimism to take things forward, expand and stuff like that. How do you want to take that up?
Talking about footwear business, we have just 40 stores all over India, and we operate only 5-6 by ourselves. Rest is all franchise. We've been franchising from 1992, and then everything shut down. About 3-4 months, we all enjoyed ourselves, and then in 8th to 9th month, we went online. We didn't have a .com, as you said, and that's doing pretty good now. We're optimistic. We have never opened so many stores that we're going to open in the next 8 to 15 months. Stores that got shut down because of no construction allowed or whatever. So, and we are adding physical stores. People are back and they don't care. They are shopping. They want more expensive products, which is going over my head. And they want quality stuff. Talking of Chennai, we didn't have shoes, school shoes for more than 230 rupees or 300 rupees. They want school shoes for $1,000. Can you imagine that? And it was a shocker. It went through up, top, down of my company. We still haven't made it because you can't charge $1,000 for shoes. And we work mostly in Eastern India, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha. It was a poorer states of the country. And we are adapting, we were just adapting to being in Tamil Nadu, and that's why I moved here from my family to start the southern side of the business. And then this happened, now we are doing e-tailing, and things looks very, very positive right now, if you ask me.
Quite interesting. So some of us were thinking that that Chennai is contributing. This is reaffirming. I think he's telling he's coming from a poorer state and he's finding consumption.
I would like to also mention Mr. Poti over here. When we moved here 10, 12 years back, I used to stand outside his store for hours and hours and hours and see the customers going in and coming out. And I'm his neighbor, he probably doesn't know me. Your managers and my managers are friends, by the way. Your shoe department, they talk to my guys. Very nice. Nice meeting you, sir. Thanks to RAI, I get this platform to meet him.
I think it is amazing. I wonder if anybody in this whole auditorium has not stood outside the Poti store to understand what's happening to retail. If anybody's never stood outside Poti store to understand what's happening to retail, raise your hands. Sir, inga parunga sir. Yarume kai thookuradilla. So everybody stood outside your store to learn. எப்படி சொல்லுவாங்களா? I think for most of us, even when I used to work in Shopper Stop, I think we all used to come in and stand outside Nalli and Poti to understand what's really happening to customers. மெதுவா இந்த கையை பின்னாடி வச்சு நாங்க மெஷர் பண்ணி பார்ப்போம் கவுண்டர் எவ்வளவு பெருசா இருக்குன்னுட்டு. இப்படி நடக்கிறா போல காமிச்சு. So I think that's the way we learned. So there is a whole lot that's there. For us, you are nothing less than Mukesh. So I think that's reaffirmation.
Sir, I still send my top managers to your store. Till date. Then they get pushed around over there, then come back very happy.
Then we'll go to the next set of questions. We do want to make about 3 main questions, and then I'd want to take questions from the audience. So please be prepared. At least 3 or 4 questions from the audience would be useful, because each one of you got specific things in your mind. I hope that we have enough time for it. The second question is, what's your...
On the consumers, I just want to hint one more thing. I think in the last 6 months, what we are seeing is actually customers or consumers have become more aspirational. This is one positive change which we are seeing across the spectrum. In fact, if you see today somebody who was riding 2-wheeler, he's wanted to go into 4-wheeler now. Somebody was running a small vehicle, 4-wheelers, and he's want to go into a better SUV vehicle or something like that. Somebody who was actually renting house, he was staying, and now today he wants to own a house. So I think the consumers' priorities have changed. The spending is there, maybe the priorities have changed. We need to change. I think that is what the entire market is today.
Good, actually jump to the next question. So what's therefore the expectations in 2022 for you as a business? I think that's the main question that I have for each one of you. What's your expectation for 2022 and maybe next 3 years? Where do you think businesses will go? What are the key changes? And where do you think we should really concentrate on? So we'd start with you, Sunil, because you've already talked about what's happening to customers, and then we'll take it forward from there.
See, looking forward, if we want to see for the next 2 to 3 years, I think things are going to become more positive. Yeah, as you also mentioned about revenge spending, I don't think it's a revenge spending. People, once they get suppressed, they want to come out and again get into the normal mode. I think this is one, it's a human tendency. So, and from our perspective as a trader or as a businessman, there must be always a period for consolidation also. Just only going on expansion is not the way to go. I firmly believe. So there is sometimes you need to go into consolidations, and during those periods, I think the efficiency has to be improved, because once you start improving the efficiency, your bottom line also increases. This is what we have seen. In fact, in last 1.5 years, we have done a lot of things where our bottom line has increased by about 1.5%, which is quite a significant thing to do. So I think looking forward the next 2-3 years, definitely business is going to be bullish. We are at least quite bullish, and we want to go into more number of physical stores. That's very clear about it. As we have opened already 2 stores in Bangalore, we would like to expand more into the Bangalore market and start getting expansion.
So without revealing too many secrets, Sunil, maybe you can tell us 1 or 2 things that led to this 1.5% more. I'm sure lots of people here are wondering, 1.5 kahan se mil gaya yaar? 1.5% is not small in retail. Huh? If you're okay to tell, give us at least one guru mantra.
No. See, earlier we used to have about bottom line used to be around about 6.5%. Now we have crossed almost 8.5%. Definitely, it's a huge, significant growth for us. Not just improving on the top line, even focusing on the bottom line is also as important as focusing on the top line.
Okay, your Guru Mantra may be available outside when you go and talk to him.
I can touch about. See, during the first lockdown, all South Indian mobile chain store owners, we all did massive number of con calls together. We all said, let's all take a stance because Sangeeta, Purvika, Chennai Mobiles, or some other big C in Hyderabad, all of us would be either next to each other or opposite to each other. So we all said, let's all take a stance that for the lockdown period, we're not going to pay the rent. We have so many stores and we cannot afford to. So all of us stuck to our guns and we saved on the rent. And there was a pent-up demand, partially. We may not have got the entire portion. Plus, because of the shortage, we could sell at full prices, no discounts, no gifts. And all of us had an understanding, nobody will give any gifts. One gift, no discount, and no marketing also. We cut down heavily on marketing. Marketing is a heavy cost for us. So, in the thin margin space that we work in, these three things, one is marketing, two is discount, three is gifts. These three savings made us also improve. Though on the top line we were slightly, single digit, we were shortfall, but on the bottom line we were better off.
So what happens in 2022?
2022, yes, as Sunil also mentioned. See, first of all, in our business, the challenge is the numbers are dropping. The volumes are dropping, but the values are not dropping. The values are going up. See, year on year, in fact, last year to this year, we see an average sale price. We use a terminology called ASP. Average sale price of a phone has gone up by 22%. And between 2019 to now, it is almost like 30%. So, see, the phones that we hold are there to say. In fact, last year, 1,50,000 was the ceiling that we had in phone price. Today, this year, we have 1,80,000. And more watch sales are happening. Smart watches are selling. And smartwatches today are priced something like 70,000, 80,000 also today. And more of tablets, tablet sales has come back. Laptops, we never used to sell laptops. We have ventured into laptops. Of course, we are thinking of new product categories to expand for the future. We are looking at some other industries because, looking at future, 5G is something that we are expecting to happen in about a year's time. Already 5G models have started coming in. Next year, 5G is surely going to happen, and every time there is a change of technology, things have really taken shape. And Fold as a concept, a form factor, it has been only with Samsung. I think in the next 12 months, we'll have almost all the brands come out with Fold series and Flip series, which has been a runaway success. And with that, the ASPs again go up. So the aspiration, customer aspiration to hold a costlier stuff, which is what mentioned by Sunil, is very much seen in our business also. But on one side, there are some experts who are saying, there is not much of innovation happening in the mobile phone beyond a point, except for the form factor, which has happened in the form of Samsung. And, yeah, so therefore, probably the upgrade cycle, somewhere we feel at the higher end of the spectrum, the upgrade cycle is slightly getting stretched. But because of the work from home, the load on the phone is much higher. So therefore, the lower end spectrum are coming and upgrading it faster.
Very interesting.
And we are looking at opening pre-used mobile phone showrooms. That is the new vertical that we want to get into. Because we see a huge opportunity there. We are looking at refurbishing center, opening up a refurbishing center. These are some of the areas that within our space that we are looking at. Apart from laptops, we have added Dyson vacuum cleaners and stuff like that, and mini projectors, which portable and affordable, and it adds to the entertainment.
Very
So these are
interesting.
some of the things.
I think the understanding for me is that in the business, if you go back to your customers and you start thinking, what is it that they want in their households? And if you can take care of fulfillment, So be it a refurbished item, or go through the entire purchase cycle, or go through the segments of customers that you have, looks like you've got a whole lot of opportunities sitting at various places. So
During the lockdown, we somehow managed this lockdown, the second lockdown, we somehow managed. In fact, our online orders went up by almost 10, 15 times during the lockdown because, you know, all the shops were shut and for some period in some cities, Amazon and Flipkart were also shut. So we got a little bit of that cake into us, though it may be very, very small. And we somehow managed to sneak in the morning, 6 o'clock, open the shutter half, get in, pick out the phones to be delivered, and we could deliver the same day. During the day, you are not allowed to open, right? And I want to also give you some example of Telangana and Andhra. What happened was, both the governments allowed us to open only between morning 6 to 10. 6 to 10, we would do almost like 65, 70% of the normal business. That happened in Telangana. It was again a pleasant sight, and because it's restricted window of business shopping hours, customers were also quick. They didn't waste much time.
Sohail, how do you look at 2022?
How do I look at?
The 2022 and beyond.
So the one thing that I've learned that we want to implement going forward is availability is something we're going to work on very strongly, right? Availability and fulfillment, because what we've discovered in this period is that you don't need a whole lot of consumers to fill your kitty. You need to ensure that your availability is there so that there's no gaps in fulfillment. For 2022, and as far as premiumization goes, you know, Sharath was just saying, as far as price going up, I'm going to be a little cautious because I think the pendulum swings, and when it swings, you know, there's some amount of revenge buying, and I think there is some amount of revenge buying. So I think it's going to go back to business as usual, and value is going to dictate the coming years. I think value is going to be very strong. Value is going to be a very strong indicator for all our businesses. And when I say value, I do not mean cheap. I've always said that. Value is that does the consumer get the value? Does the consumer feel that this product at that store is the best value proposition he can get? Because at a lot of places, you're only sharing a wall between one store and your competitor. So that's going to be our mantra for 2022. As far as margins and pricing goes, I think the only way to grow profits is to increase throughput and not necessarily increase prices, because when you're increasing prices, even if there's a slight fall in consumption, we as retailers tend to discount, at least in the apparel business, because we want to sustain momentum. So I think going forward, we want to become sharper on pricing, better on availability to ensure that, you know, we're ensuring that there's no order fulfillment issues. Sharper on pricing, better on availability, and increase margin to throughput more than increase margin through a price rise. That's I think, our vision going forward.
So a little bit of your secret, if you are willing to reveal. Okay? I had a discussion with you yesterday about your growth during Diwali, right? And the numbers that you told me, the percentage you told me, were spectacularly above the percentage that the garment sector told us in our business survey. In the business survey for us, the garment sector in Diwali, in the month of October, has grown 6% above 2019. That is the average that we've seen for the sector. Okay. Now, it's because of the way in which our members have entered the data. When I asked him what he went on to, you told me a different number. If you're willing to reveal, please reveal and tell me what you did.
I'll just say significant double digit. You know? And I think
he says it's significant double digit for those of you who were not able to hear him.
Yeah,
significant double digit.
And when we talk growth, for us, we talk about like-for-like growth and not necessarily year-on-year growth, because there's also an expansion, right, into number of stores. That's capital expansion, which also happened. But for us, from a like-to-like perspective, significant double-digit growth happened for us. And coming back, price points remained sharp, and I think availability was key for us in ensuring, because the consumption is like a graph. It goes up and comes down, goes up and comes down. Nobody's able to really predict whether a Saturday you'll hit it out of the ballpark or a Wednesday you'll hit it out of the ballpark. So I think that in terms of availability hygiene, okay, you have to make sure you're between 95% and 100%. maybe 80-85% previously was okay, but today 95% availability is a benchmark we follow. 95 to 105 is the availability benchmark we follow, because then if there's change on table, we're not leaving any change on table. We're ensuring that we pick up every little rupee on the table, and that has worked wonders for us. Prep really works in retail, because consumption, though we're all looking at it being optimistic, but you don't know when consumption dips for what reason. Now, for example, rain happens, right? If the previous weekend you've knocked out of the ballpark, right, at least this weekend, if the business drops by 30-40%, you're able to weather the shocks. So I think availability is going to be something that all of us have to focus on at all times. We as manufacturers, fortunately, have a bit of a strength in availability. Maybe traders don't have it because you're linked to a manufacturer. But I think availability is key for all retailers, and that's a large part of what, efficiency itself. That, you don't leave any demand on the table unfulfilled.
Thank you. I think that's what we were. Nice. Charat, do you want to take up?
I'm quite optimistic about 22, 23, 24, or let's say 3 calendar years or financial years. 2, 3 things, we are seeing a slightly different trend from what Suhail mentioned. Clearly, I see premiumization happening, and I think it's a huge opportunity. Somewhere I feel the customer is now linking multiple things in his or her head, which is lesser visits, make the most of it, sustainability, which means not more often, but better at one time. So if you look at all these words coming together, and you say, what does that mean in one nutshell? It appears to be that there is a customer is willing to pay a better price for a better product. But there is a corollary to that. He or she also wants to buy it from a better looking place. Only then he or she can justify that price in his or her head. So that is going to mean better stores, which means more ambience, more comfort for setting, things like that. With things we don't normally take seriously as retailers, right? Is there enough seating space available for the family to come and shop in comfort? That's going to mean bigger stores. Our strategy is clearly bigger stores. The one thing which I have always been a big believer of in, and I've used as a contrary philosophy for many years, is I firmly believe that organized retail future is in Bharat. Every state has its own mini Bharat, if you call it, which is outside of Chennai, if it is Tamil Nadu, or outside of Hyderabad, if it is Telangana. The opportunity for quality retail in the smaller towns in India is just immense. It's a tip of the iceberg. People are not yet really looking at it seriously, but it is the future of when one can get. And over there is where these trends are coming out, where customers are coming in with families to shop. They want better places. They want a better looking store. So organized retail, I see for us being driven by those. The other change, which it's there in the management books, but most of us have never paid attention to it, is, and you all must have heard of this SAVE framework of marketing rather than the 4 Ps of marketing, right? Solution, access, value, and education. Truly, more than ever, post-pandemic, that's the need of the hour. Customers are walking in not to buy a product, but to buy a solution. So as a retailer, I have to provide that solution. I have to educate them why it is good, what occasion, etc. Otherwise, it's a discount game. Value, like Sohail rightly said, is in their head. 3,000 is not a problem for them if they can justify the value as to why they want to pay that whole value. If we can drive that in the communication that we do, through the training of the staff, better trained staff, clearly their opportunity is gigantic. Because customers are very clear why they want to buy from a particular brand. And when they walk in, they don't have any more inhibitions to say, I'll only buy that stuff from your brand. I'm here to look for a solution. If you can offer me all of these as a meaningful solution, I'm in it as a customer. So the opportunity is really strong to go direct to consumer. We often think that D2C, I'm sure all of us have read newspapers toward that D2C is the most common buzzword, right? We all tend to think that D2C means only online. No, D2C is a way by which you reach the customer directly. Your own store is also a D2C. Therefore, if you approach it the same way and say, what can I do to use that to communicate with my customer in a better way, there's a huge D2C business waiting to happen.
Interesting. Very interesting. I want to touch 2 of these, but before that, we'll understand what's happening from Sushant. What is your expectation for 2022?
See, I decided not to see my P&L accounts for the last 3 years. And so that way I'm not screaming and shouting my head off. And 2022, business will, as Sohail said, fulfillment. The cost of petroleum is directly proportionate to the cost of the sole of a shoe, which is mostly PVC. And leather being in India, we have 99% of our leather sourced here, made here, and it's easy. And about 2.5 square feet of leather goes in a shoe and the rest is the sole. Sole has been a problem because the cost keeps on going up. As we all know, the cost of petroleum keeps on going up. We did see a very good sale this Diwali, as Sohail said, only because we had more stock than we usually carry. So that is one is fulfillment. And then, although we are known for a footwear brand, 40% of our sale comes from accessories, that is belts, wallets, and bags. And then again, that's again, as Chandru said, customer is buying an experience. So they match the belt to the shoe, to the wallet, and the bag. And then there is women's bags. That's again handled by my wife. Don't know too much about it. E-commerce, by the way, is also handled by my wife. And I've seen a drastic change in my hiring pattern. We are hiring more and more women for some reason. I don't know if guys are not working anymore. And I've just finished hiring about two women in, one is ex-Bata, by the way, in Jamshedpur. And we're going to start the process here as well. If the rains let us do anything. And 2022 will obviously look good because I haven't seen 3 years back.
Nice thought. How many people in this room have bought from Nykaa? I know it's got discussed, right? What do you think is special about Nykaa?
I buy my beard wash from Nykaa.
As a shopper for me, I think they added a lot of value to the whole online shopping experience by giving a lot of relevant information about the products available on the platform. The quality of reviews on the platform was much better. And as a user, if you were really doubtful, the way the doubts got clear on the platform was very good.
I was actually wanting the same answer from him because Sharad did talk about the safe thought process. And I wanted to say that the reason why people have got valued is because of the fact that there is a whole lot of work that's gone to create solutions and to create education for customers. I'm seeing Rachna also shaking her head. She's one of those educated for sure. And I think that two parts has really helped them in doing something differently. Similarly, for some of you who've discussed, and I'm telling you things that's been visible in public data because I'm not revealing anything not available to people. Similarly, for people who've been shopping at DMart and people who've been following DMart, it's predominantly a shop. It's not so much online. The online is only adding that additional amount of tadka on this whole thing. So the dalchi kotranga, that's what their whole thought process on the e-commerce is. But the speciality with DMart is about what Suhail said, availability. If you take a shopping list with you to DMart, 99% of the times you would get all of the items that you went to. And that's what makes them so good, is that they have very clearly understood customer I want to make sure that it's available. At no point do they have to go to some other store because the item that they expected I would have is not available with me. That amount of fanatism is what I have seen when I sit with Neville. I mean, it's not a very top-heavy kind of a company, but the amount of work that they do to make sure that customers get what they want inside the store, it's amazing. So I think there are some aspects that we can pick up from various people, and some of you read that. That's why I think it's very, very nice for us to learn. We've got some view on what's happening in future. We've got some view of what they've gone through. If there are other questions in people's mind, I'm willing to come in and raise that up with our panelists here, because we've possibly got another 3 or 5 minutes left with us. And you may also want to say who the question is meant for, because then it's useful for me to ask the relevant people.
Sangeeta has not cut down on expansion in spite of COVID. Maybe because we lost 2 months' time, we may have to that extent only. So our average is about 110 stores a year that we open. So we have been opening about 80, 85 stores the last 2 years each year. So we are at 730 stores right now as we speak. So everybody, many people, when I say I am from mobile, people who know me newly, they are like, they feel sorry for me. Oh, yo, mobile, Amazon, Flipkart is selling so many mobiles. You are the one who's first affected and all that. See, believe me, I am telling you, in spite of COVID, we had a very good bottom line last year and all that. So at the same time, we stood by our employees. We took care of them. We paid 75% of the salaries, even for during the COVID months this year. Last year, we paid 50% because it was 100% lockdown. Even online was not possible. So then, for example, I think I shared with you, we participated with Zomato this year lockdown. We distributed 10 lakh meals as a charity, as a CSR in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, through Zomato, Feeding India. So these are some of the things that, we got time to introspect and bring out that humanness a little bit. It's not right probably to share, but then in the interest of everybody.
I think it's right to share because I keep telling that our members have done spectacular work during this COVID season. Each person, smallest of retailer to a very large retailer, have contributed to the economy significantly and for the well-being of human beings, because end of the day, retail is about community. Namba kuda namba community irundha dhaan we can survive is very clear. And you understand what customers go through. You know customers know you, they look to you for solutions. And I think that's what we've done. We should at no point of time underplay the amount of contribution that we are able to give to our own customers who come to us. And that's what is getting defined. Many people collaborated to make things happen. That's another thing that's happened.
In Bangalore South, and he started an Oxy bank because there's so much of oxygen shortage. And we have about 35 vehicles of ours to deliver mobile phones to all our stores. So we deployed all our logistics. We took care of their logistics to carry the cylinder and go and install it at the patient's place. And and he developed an app. And once the patient is done with and the cylinder could be collected back. So Sangeeta did all that. Similarly, Tejaswini Anantakumar, she is Anantkumar's former Union Minister, Anantkumar's wife. She runs a cooking platform where they prepare about 50,000 meals a day. So we picked up the meals from there and we distributed to government hospitals.
Also the Chennai chapter, quite a lot of our retailers who've been very quiet here have also contributed a significant of money towards the Chief Minister's Relief Fund and towards relief in the place. So it's thankful. I think we all need to understand that we are there for consumers and we are there to take care of community. As long as we take care of community, the community will come to us, but we can't take them for granted. Questions? Can I get mics? And please, if we can have quick questions, we'll have 3 questions and then I think we'll need to shut. They've got mics there.
Yeah, hi, I'm Deepak Praveen from Green Trend Salon, Kevin K. I think Charat touched upon a very important point about solutions. The consumer today, earlier, was much dependent on us to tell them what is best for them. Thanks to the device, a lot of them have a lot of information already, and they want validation of that. And at retail, the biggest resource for us is people. And I would like to get a perspective on the experts on the panel on how are we or you gearing up your team, or what is it we can do differently to ensure that they bridge the gap between the brand and the customers, what they seek. Because whatever we think of great strategies, it is through them. You might have the best cut, you might have the latest trend, but if they don't communicate it the way the customer wants it, we are going to fall flat. So, and I think that's a very important aspect or resource.
I think I get your question, and I'm very thankful that you brought the people part back. Very, very thankful. I may want to take this to Charat.
Because he
quite-
spoke about solution. I think it's a very important aspect which we as
No,
as a
I
platform
have to
can
tell you that I'm taking it to Charat because quite often the only times he really calls me is because he's got something in his mind about people in his business. So I see him as a person who seems to be batting for his people. So Charat, you want to take this up?
No, absolutely. So, Deepak, what we've realized is that, and Biju mentioned this much earlier in the first day, that technology has been there even before the pandemic came. But for some reasons, and with due respect to all the trainers out here in this room, we somehow felt that you can only go physically and conduct training. Right? We never knew that there's a technology solution to training your people and you can do it 24/7, you can pick off hours. What we have now realized is that we need to train from here and constantly educate our staff about what is happening. So that is the only way that they will be able to be in trend with what is coming out and they can talk to the customers about it. In fact, as we speak, just to share with you all in my office today, we are having a range review for the next season. I have not called any franchisee. I have only called the top 30 store managers, even if they belong to a franchisee, and I've told them that these are the people who will tell me whether it is worth it or not worth it. I respect my franchisees, they are business partners of mine, but it is the store staff or the store managers or the key people who really have the pulse on what is happening and what customers want. And so we have changed our whole model to say that only these people will be involved in previews, reviews, feedback, etc., etc. And that is how we are driving it. So our focus is train them. We are making our own people train. We have given, and we are doing things differently. So training, for example, for us is now part of visual merchandising, because we have recognized that in a garment business or in a clothing business, the way you display, the way you put it across makes a big impact. And that tends to be done by visual merchandisers in any organization. They are the best people to train. But we have to train them first and then make them do training digitally through all the stores. And that's what we are focused on. I'll give you another thing why I want to add it quickly for one more minute. The corollary to this whole thing is that because the consumer has devices and he or she has a much better idea of what they want, it means that for businesses, it's no longer about width. It's about depth and it's about simplicity. If you look at pre-pandemic, we were all focused on choice, variety, and we were not focused upon fulfillment, to touch upon Sohail's word. Now it's the other way around. You can have lesser, but if you have the right thing and you have it in depth, you will fulfill the customer's needs. So it can actually work wonders in simplifying your business. And for those who want to get that 1.5% which Sunil was talking about, if you simplify that part of your business, you can shave off 1.5%. So it works beautifully because they know what is happening, but the training is completely digital and driven by identify in your team who is the best person to do it internally, but do it digitally and 24/7.
Thank you. There were other hands. There's somebody at the last. Can we pass the mic to him?
Morning. I'm Charles from GoFrugal Technologies. This question is to Charat. Charat, you talked about looking at thriving rather than survival. So if you have to give an advice to the aspiring or struggling retailers today, what are the 3 areas you would ask them to focus in terms of technology and automation that would help them to move from survival to thriving?
I don't know if I can qualify to answer that much, but if you have to, first and foremost, I think you should make sure that your store is online in some form or the other. There are lots of solutions available for smallest retailer to the most complex retailer to be online first. It's at some level, I have always felt that our clothing businesses or many businesses is like a movies, right? The poster decides whether you want to watch the movie or not. So your storefront, even if it is a digital storefront, needs to be of a good quality. So that poster needs to look good. After that poster is well made, I think the only thing that you should look at is hire one person in your team, however big or small you are, who is the most technology savvy person. It could be a sales guy who's the most technology savvy, or it could be somebody, because understanding who is buying and what they are buying and that data which is coming in is going to help you to decide what to keep, what not to keep. If you are a pure trading retailer, and I'm no expert and may probably, uh, the thing I would do is simplify the business, which means use data to see what is selling the most and only keep more of that, because fulfillment is what people are looking for. And if you're a manufacturing vertically integrated retailer, then you're in a better position to address the demand requirements. But there too, the key is data. So have a person who is tech savvy, who can analyze the data for you and help you to take that decision. And if you're a small retailer, simplify your business more than anything else.
Thank you. I do want to add to what Charath has said from an experience that's happened to me. I think many of us don't give enough importance to the 8-year-old and the 12-year-old and the 16-year-old in the houses. I would say if you are a retailer, please spend lots more time with them. They will teach you about technology that you never thought was possible. How many of you believe that's the way it is? I personally, I think I'm a fairly tech savvy person. I'm not technology expert by no means at all. But I'm happy to play with technology. But when it came to social media, my ability to understand it was beyond bonkers. The person who taught me parts of it was a person who was a 16-year-old whom we got into our company, who was a failure in his 12th standard because he was getting bored, okay? And he came into RAI. He taught all of us what and how we had to use social media to make ourselves be more visible. At the end, he also told us that you can make money from your YouTube channel. And last year, we made some money from YouTube channel in RAI, thanks to the fact that a 16-year-old school dropout or a college dropout came and reoriented us. Okay? So never ever think that the bacha in your house is somebody who's not learned. I tell my head of marketing, Dr. Hitesh Bhatt, that his daughter is going to teach us how to make videos with lots of music and edit the videos better in our social media. She's 10 years of age. But I think she'll teach us new lessons in our lives. So that's the way it is. Some of us who are unwilling to acknowledge that the new kid in the block is going to teach us are going to lose out. Especially for those who are into this. I've been in business for more than 30 years. That more than 30 years is not a qualification. Sometimes that is the disqualification to doing business new way. So I just put that up as an important thing. Please listen to the kid in the house. Any other questions? Or
Sir, hi.
This is the last question that we take up.
Hi, I'm Suyash. I'm from Homeland. We are into plotting and development. One, thank you all so much for spending your time. A lot of insightful thoughts have been, collected from here. So one, thank you for that. Second, my question is that since all of you, are heads of multiple retail chains, you're working on, discussing talent with a lot of resources, a lot of, money is being flown, time is being given. So at all point of time, to sustain and to succeed, right, one important thing that we all can believe is that insights. So what I'd like to understand from all of you is that how do you generate insights? What's your key to generating insights that lead you to your next best idea, or to idea that will help you sustain and succeed? Thank you.
Sorry, what business do you said?
We're into real estate, plotting and development.
Real estate plotting and development.
Yes, thank
okay, nice. Anybody wants to take this up? Okay, I'll try and give you what I think about insights, and I think that's important. Two parts. One is that the fact that you've been able to come here and talk to people, if you look at each individual in this room and think that person can add back some value, I think you'll find some insights. Two is, when you touch the phone, there is all kinds of insights from social media channels to various things that's there. I think there's plethora of insights today. The problem is that we got inundated with so much of data that we have to convert it into actionables. The third part is what I tell normally in companies. I think somewhere way back I learned that if you are a CEO or the owner of a business, your job is to bring the outside in. And if you are a COO and the man in operations, your job is to bring the inside out. This is something that I learned in a McKinsey magazine years before, and I practiced that, and it's very useful. If you are a CEO and an owner, your job is to know various people and to tell what's happening in the outside world, to bring that into the company, to make that company fresh every day. And if you're a CEO, it's about you to sell the company to everybody every day. I think that split is very essential. If a owner does not bring the outside in, if a CEO does not bring the outside in into the company, I think we are doing injustice. If you can do that, I think Insights is going to keep on happening. With that, I'd like to thank all the people on this panel. It's lovely to be listening to all of you. I hope that it's been useful. If it has been useful, do give a round of applause to all of them.